Over 250,000 individuals are reported missing every year, with estimates of actual missing persons cases that are left unreported pushing that total to more than an expected 300,000 cases annually. With that many reports, it is no wonder that a vast majority of these cases are left unsolved. However, every now and then, there are a series of missing cases that emerge that are so peculiar they become the subject of internet conspiracies and impossible to explain theories. Known as the Missing 411, there appears to be a substantial amount of missing persons cases relating to the disappearances of individuals from national parks. In fact, many of these missing 411 cases are believed to not be investigated too deeply as some form of supernatural or paranormal cover-up takes place in these undisturbed locations. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be going over 3 strange missing persons 411 cases that have yet to be solved. The disappearance of Maurice Gordon Doc Dametz. Maurice Gordon Doc Dametz was an 84-year-old Christian reverend of whom had a relatively successful writing career during his time working as a Christian leader of his small community, with a number of successful publications under his belt, such as his works titled Focal Points of Christian History, Trouble Transformed, Burden Bearing, Mystery of Godliness, and Dead at the Top. Unfortunately, Doc Dametz was suffering from a severe blood disorder that made it difficult for him to be alone and had severe arthritis complications that prevented him from being able to move without assistance. Despite these physical limitations, Doc Dametz enjoyed spending his free time venturing out into the wilderness to locate ideal locations for mining precious gems and minerals. Dametz had been a fan of leading his own private expeditions in the field of geology and would often invite a close friend of his to accompany him when making trips out into the national parks or empty stretches of wilderness to assist him during the trip and help him move throughout different pieces of rugged terrain. Doc's fascination for the field of geology would eventually lead him to joining the American Federation of Mineral Societies and Flatiron Gem and Mineral Club, becoming an experienced veteran of private expeditions and mining efforts. It is for all these reasons that it came as a shock to the wife of Doc Dametz when Doc disappeared suddenly and unexpectedly when venturing out into the Pike National Forest located in the Front Range of Colorado, when taking a trip with his close friend McSherry to find a digging spot for minerals. According to McSherry, the two had found a small sandy pit close to the Rampart Range Road, where McSherry said he had left Dametz to venture out an extra 50 yards to find his own sandy pit to dig from. After about 2 hours of mining, McSherry returned to Doc Dametz and told him they would be driving home soon because it would be getting dark. Doc had said that he would be gathering his tools while McSherry returned to his pit to pack up his things. After McSherry finished packing his things, he returned to Doc Dametz's pit only to find that he had completely disappeared without a trace. When investigations were made, detectives remarked that the disappearance of Doc Dametz seemed perplexing as there was no evidence of a struggle or any footsteps, markings or tracks left behind in any direction. Additionally, all of Doc Dametz's tools went missing with him, with nothing left in the pit to be used as evidence. On the 18th of July 1981, the wife of Maurice Gordon Doc Dametz wrote a letter to her governor, Governor Richard Lamb, asking for any assistance in helping her find her husband. The letter detailed that she believed some form of conspiracy had been committed against her husband, with thoughts that he had met some form of foul play or had been carried away, but that all efforts for an investigation were being impeded by unseen forces. Despite this letter, no further action was taken, with Doc Dametz declared dead in 1990. The strange case of Keith Parkins. One of the strangest missing 411 cases comes from a report made back in 1952 surrounding the disappearance of a young 2-year-old child named Keith Parkins, of whom was later found more than 12 miles from the original place he had been standing. Details claim that on the 10th of April, back in 1952, the Parkins family had been playing around their barn in Ritter, Oregon, for several hours before being called to come inside due to the winter snow. Once called inside, the parents of the children noticed that their youngest son, Keith Parkins, was not attending and so quickly went looking for him, fearing the worst. After an hour of searching, the family had failed to locate their youngest son, and so contacted neighbouring families, gathering as many volunteers as possible, and began a search party for Keith Parkins in an attempt to find him, with the hopes that he had most likely fallen somewhere around the property. Given the small size and young age of Keith, the pitch-black darkness and the dense snow, the family had believed he could not have travelled more than a few miles at most. A little less than 20 hours since their search began, the family would end up finding Keith Parkins more than 12 miles away from the home, lying face down in the snow with no evidence of tracks or paths as to how he ended up there. Given the strange nature of the case of Keith Parkins, a documentary featuring the missing 411 was made, with footage of survivalist Les Stroud retracing the steps of the young Keith Parkins through the rugged terrain, showing the impossibility for a 2-year-old boy to cross over a mountain pass, travel through thick shrubbery, cross miles of barbed wire, and end up on the top of a mountain in less than 20 hours. Unfortunately, given the child's young age, Keith Parkins did not remember any of the details of the event when he was older, with some believing that a far more supernatural or paranormal event had taken place that moved Keith more than 12 miles without his knowledge. The Vanishing of Dr. James McGraw. 39-year-old Dr. James McGraw visited the ski resort of the small town of Vale, located at the base of the Vale Mountain within the White River National Forest, for a weekend getaway vacation trip with 3 of his other friends. It was on Friday, the 14th of March, that Dr. James McGraw would go missing for a time span of about 2 weeks before his body was recovered on the 3rd of April by a group of young skiers. According to McGraw's friends, the group went hiking up the Vale Mountain, taking the 9-mile hike to the Eisman Hut at about 8:30 in the morning. After a couple of hours, at about 10 in the morning, the group took a short break at the side of the trail to catch their breath and relax. It was at this point that Dr. James McGraw told his friends that he would hike on up ahead alone and would meet them all at the Eisman Hut when they were finished relaxing. Several hours later, when the group made it to the Eisman Hut, they noticed that Dr. James McGraw was nowhere to be found, with a search and rescue team spending the next 2 weeks trying to find him and claiming to have covered more than 18 square miles surrounding the location. The body of Dr. James McGraw would eventually be found by a group of skiers nearly 4 miles away from the Vale Winter Trail near the Booth Falls area. When experts got to the body, they noticed that McGraw was not wearing his coat, gloves, or boots. When searching through his materials, the team found that he had been fully equipped in the event of being lost, such as a working cell phone in his backpack in an area with working cellular reception, a large pack of food, water, an extra battery for his cell phone, basic medical supplies, an avalanche beacon, a working GPS, and an extra set of warm clothing. When an autopsy was performed to uncover the cause of death, the details came back showing that Dr. James McGraw was suffering from multiple injuries, including severe head trauma while wearing a helmet, trauma to the left side of his chest, and a completely broken femur. The cause of his death was immediately ruled as an accident, and no further investigation was taken to explain the strange injuries. The vast amount of distance covered or the fact that Dr. James McGraw had failed to use any of his safety tools available to him that could have easily helped him at any point during his journey if he had been lost. Unfortunately, many of the rescuers would go on to claim that nothing was unusual with the finding of Dr. James McGraw, claiming that he had crossed over 4.5 miles in a straight line, crossing over mountains and ridges without any climbing gear, only to fall off another mountain and accrue the injuries in different places all over his body without shoes and while still wearing his helmet. The complete disregard for uncovering the true nature of the death of Dr. James McGraw has only fueled continued paranoia when it comes to the growing disappearances of national parks and a conspiracy surrounding the missing 411. But what do you make of all these impossible to explain missing 411 cases? Be sure to let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to share your answers and questions about the video to help grow our community and share insightful comments about the nature of these topics. Hopefully, as we continue to grow our community, we will one day be able to solve these unexplainable mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.